It's like all of your sins just goes away. I want to talk about a mission trip that I went on in July 7th through 19th of 1993. Susan Zorn, who many of you know, and I went to Honduras. I went with other members of the Disciples of Christ in other parts of Indiana. Now, I can tell you a lot about this because it was just a fabulous trip. It turned my theology on its head. But I'm going to say this about it. I learned without a doubt, see, our mission, our job, we did some work, but our task was to find out what our mission dollars were doing. When we sent money overseas, what were they doing? Was it doing what it was supposed to do? And I learned, and I can tell you that without a doubt, when you send money to the Disciples Mission Fund, it will go and do what it is supposed to do. I can say that without any doubt at all. It will do what it is designed to do. I'll just tell you a few things about our trip. We were supposed to collect things, I remember, right? School kits, I think, was one thing. I'm not good at collecting things. I can't really see. Collecting things is not my deal. But Susan, Susan, she was good at collecting things. She got us collect all these things collected to take with us. What are we going to do with all this stuff? Nobody's going to want all this stuff. But I was wrong. I was wrong. If I had known beforehand what I knew after I got there, I would have collected twice as much stuff. When we landed in Tegucigalpa, everybody clapped. So Susan and I clapped. What are we clapping for? I don't know. So we said, what are we clapping for? She said, well, every time, this is the shortest runway in the world, so every time anyone lands here, we always clap. What we saw when we were there, well, tell the gardening crew what we saw. We saw fields of companion plantings, which was introduced by the CCD, which is the mission area that we were connected to in Honduras. The Three Sisters, Carol, tell us about the Three Sisters.
Three Sisters are corn, squash, and green beans.
And you could plant them in one field, and this was part of our mission. Hospital workers, I want to tell you, now this was something that we saw, which we weren't prepared for, but it didn't have anything to do with our mission dollars, but we traveled around. We went to hospitals, and we saw a hospital that still wrecks my soul every time I think about it. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. It was wide open. It had a beautiful courtyard plantings, but it was so poor that the beds were simply worn and soiled mattresses with no sheets. And I thought of all the people in Wabash who had one extra sheet that they would have donated. And we could have taken to that hospital and think of what the difference it would have made to be on a sick person in a bed with a clean sheet under you. In all ways, what a difference it would have made. Teachers, all of you teachers, we took writing materials and pencils to schools in rural areas that had none. I wish we could have collected more. Social workers, we met street children. Wherever we went, we met people who worked with them. We provided housing and food and clothing and sent them to school. We went proclaiming to be part of the body of Christ in our own way, and when we arrived, we simply met our brothers and sisters in another part of the world who were part of the body of Christ, and Jesus was already there. I'll tell you one short story taken from my journal. We traveled all around. We had a driver named Nehemiah, who had actually been a taxi driver. If you know anything about taxi drivers in the third world, you just take your hat off to them. Anyway, one early evening, we went to an early evening worship service at the Assembly of God Church outside Tegucigalpa. It's actually in the foothills. Tegucigalpa's in the hills. The road wound around up and up and up and up. The dirt streets were narrow. Houses were small but adequate. There's so many people outside, so many people walking around, talking, being together, communicating with each other. Saw dogs everywhere, chickens. Of course, Dick would love this. Chickens were running free. Always said chickens should be running free. The steps into the church were like this, or like these steep steps into a cinder block building. The doors were open. The windows had no panes. Open, they were screenless. It was a very simple little building with 10 rows or 10 or 15 rows of 2 sections of this beautiful little church. The preacher's name was Ephraim. His wife was singing. The sound system was very loud. That was one of the things I learned about the churches in Honduras. They didn't worry about children making noise. They just turned their child's sound system up. And they didn't care. Children could run, they could sing, they could make noise. They didn't care. They wanted the children there. So they just turned their sound system up. So many people, and that crowded into that little church at the top of the hill. Many children. Well, we were a few minutes late on account of our Nehemiah's actually, had trouble finding it, which I don't know anybody found it because there were no markings anywhere. But they were waiting for us. They had saved seats for us. They knew we were coming. I looked around. There was like a group of seats right there. Everybody in the group sat down. There was no seat left for me. Where was I going to sit? So I looked around, and there was a family over on the other side, beckoning to me, come over here, come over here. And I saw, that they had put a child in someone's lap to make a seat for me. It was kind of like the Mattern family. I mean, it was just like brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, children. It was this big, extended Honduran family that I was sitting right in the middle of them. I thought, how gracious of them. They patted me on the back and on the head and introduced themselves. And suddenly I saw something being passed. I think I've told you this story before, but just in case, it's a great story. You can hear it again. I saw something being passed to me. And it was placed in the lap of the little girl sitting next to me, tiny little baby. And she handed him to me. His name was Diego. Couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 months old, maybe less than that. And he sat. He was so content just to sit, be held, nestled in my arms. You know what? I will never be convinced that baby wasn't Jesus. I believe that he was Jesus in the here and now. We sat together, that family and I, and sang Amazing Grace, and We're Happy in You Know It, all the songs. And Ephraim preached about love, 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 13, all about what love is. Love never fails. The service ended, and we hugged each other and said our goodbyes, and I will never forget my good fortune that day in that little church with her people and the open windows and the green hills and the flowers in the background and the welcome, the loud singing and the clapping. How'd I do?
As irreverent, rash, and offensive as I am, as you all know, I would never criticize.
let me down. God helps those who help themselves is not found in the Bible. The credit to that is given to Ben Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac. This is in the Bible. Matthew 25:34-36 says, "Then the king will say on those in the right, 'Enter, you who are blessed by my Father. Take what's coming to you in this kingdom. It's been ready for you since the world's foundation, and here's why. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was homeless and you gave me a room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to me.'" I'm telling the solemn truth, whenever you fail to do one of these things to someone who is being overlooked or ignored, that was me. You failed to do it to me. So, I've been on a few mission trips, so I got kind of a late start in life. In August 2005, many of us remember the satellite pictures of a hurricane hanging over the Gulf of Mexico and warnings of people to evacuate the city of New Orleans. By Labor Day weekend, 175-mile-per-hour winds causing 50-foot waves descended on the Gulf Coast, reaching the levees of New Orleans and destroying the coastline from Texas to Florida. Over 1,800 people lost their lives in that storm as we watched helplessly on TV as pictures of the devastation rolled on for weeks after the storm had hit, listening to the horror stories of the survivors from the Superdome to the suburbs. We all have witnessed disaster, and many of us want to help, but don't know how, except by sending money through Week of Compassion, Red Cross, and others. Like I alluded to, fortunately or unfortunately, that was the first time I had the opportunity to help. Cheryl Hapner's son, Bill, worked for an organization out of Tennessee that worked for Red Cross and had been to the Katrina site several times. He had planned another trip in the summer of 2006, and yes, there was still plenty to be done. We didn't make it to New Orleans. We landed at a small town up the coast called Pass Christian, Mississippi. They had formed a community help center called the Gray Hut, which was designed to take applications for anyone who had been hurt by the hurricane and needed help. Their job was to investigate the need and prioritize it to pass on to volunteers coming into the area. I didn't know what I was getting into and had no idea what to expect. We met Bill and drove his RV and a small tool trailer from Tennessee to Pass Christian, and we stayed at a church site. For the most part, we were tree cutters that week. The winds, floods, and standing water had killed many of the trees, and they were still standing, hanging over people's houses, or had fallen and were just tumbled across their backyards. Professionals and city crews were booked daily and were expensive. It wasn't life-saving work or rebuilding homes, which may add a more visible impact, but worrying about a tree falling on your house is real. You have witnessed hundreds of neighbors that had trees falling on their homes, and you would lose sleep over it. The destruction was so bad that many places on the GPS, like gas stations and homes, were demolished, and you couldn't even recognize that something had been there. Many groups stayed at the church, and they would serve breakfast and dinner there. Most of the homes in the area had been destroyed by standing water and mold. So they were living in campers made here in Indiana that were supposed to be temporary, and they were still living in them because they had no money to rebuild their homes. It was a bonding experience to see the number of people with open hands willing to serve, willing to give their time, to worship together and to know that we were doing the right thing. Whether it was rebuilding or cleaning up, you just don't get that feeling from anything else. We didn't meet many of the victims, but the ones I saw were tired, but grateful. Their requests had been finally answered over a year after the nightmare of Hurricane Katrina. I did tasks that I do all the time here, but it was different doing it for someone to ease their worry, and that's a great feeling. After that, Cheryl asked me if I would, she had found several trips, as Belinda mentioned, in Appalachia. I'm not exactly sure. She was just just kind of attracted to Appalachia, had been on several trips, and she wanted to go again and wanted me to go. So she asked me to go. We went to a little town in Appalachia called Hurley, Virginia. She'd gone there several times, and this time it was Cheryl Hapner. I thought it was Cheryl Harner, but Cheryl said she didn't think she went on that trip. There was someone else that went, Jerry Stoner and me. She had been to several places in Appalachia, and someone suggested Hurley. It was just a poor village that had a community building also designed to help its neighbors. And we just spent a few days there reflooring a home and family. And it was really interesting. I spent time working, but I know Cheryl wouldn't mind saying that she worked, but she also talked a lot to the people. And she probably has better stories about the people we helped than I do, because I wasn't there for the social viewpoints. Anyway. I don't think she will be affected. Later, a group of us went Columbus. In 2008, a flood raged through Columbus, Indiana, flooding the hospital and many homes around the town. Not long after that, Pastor Dennis Frishimori found a mission opportunity to help a family rebuild their home. The water had gotten into their home and ruined the flooring, leaving the structure intact. Again, a group including the Guthries and the Rinkenbergers and Carolyn Rozier, and I'm probably leaving someone out, headed there, and I remember replacing the wooden floor in the living room. It was pretty close to right after that happened that we got to go there. And so you get to see, like I said, it was almost a year after Katrina hit when we went to Mississippi, and a lot of that stuff had overgrown. This was still pretty obvious that it just happened. Then also I guess this is a little closer to home than Columbus, but on March 2nd, 2012, a tornado ripped through southern Indiana, especially Henryville, with winds up to 175 miles an hour, which they found debris up to 70 miles away in Kentucky and Ohio. It's about 25 miles from Louisville, where we stayed in a Christian mission building in downtown, which is also a homeless shelter. Again, all you had to see on the news was that it had hit and devastated the Henryville school not long after the dismissed school, and buses of kids were witnessing funnel clouds. Randy and Melanie King, Jerry Stoner, Charlie Guthrie, the Rinkenbergers. Marvin, were you on that trip? You went, okay. The Polies and I headed there that summer to help. The site where we ate, you could view both the path of the tornado and the swath of trees that had cut out of the hillside. They split us up, but the guys took a siding job for an older man. The tornado hadn't leveled his house, but had blown most of the siding off the back of his house. That was our job for the weekend. When we were there, you could see most of the town of Henryville was destroyed. The school building was partially torn down, as were many businesses there. It was very emotional to think about if the tornado had been an hour earlier, what the school situation would have been. In all these cases, we all do jobs like this all the time, and there are people we can help right here in Wabash. The point is that we did it together for people who either couldn't afford it or couldn't do it themselves, or got caught in a natural disaster and just needed help. Working together works, and it makes both the volunteer and the receiver glad. It brings a group of people together for a common cause to accomplish a task, not for money, not for glory, not for vacation time, but to help our brothers and sisters in Christ, where the paycheck is the feeling when you're done, and how our lives have been changed, giving time to those in need, no matter how small the task. The last point that I need to make is that this doesn't happen without people organizing the events and being able to assign tasks that need done. Otherwise, volunteers become disinterested. Thank you. Sharon?
spring break, 2002. I think this was the second time you went to Quantinia, wasn't it? That's what I thought. But anyhow, excuse me, I boarded a bus with, I think there were 9 adults and 9 students, student age, and we headed for Georgia. We got into traffic jam in South Indianapolis, like spring break you always do. You have to have traffic jam in spring vacation. Midnight, we pulled into this motel, we had reservations in Bardstown, Kentucky, because the next morning we were going to get up early and go to the local monastery. Susie has this thing about monasteries. I don't know what it is, but she does. So we get up at 5 to go to this monastery, and it was a big, beautiful, beautiful stone building on grounds just outside of Bardstown, and it was really very impressive. The Gregorian chanting done by the priest early was very moving, but it was cold. A stone church I've discovered is cold. But anyhow, that was the beginning of our trip, more or less. And we, after that, we had to go to the local liquor store. We didn't have a picture of it. I know somebody has a picture. I'm not, probably Bob. Bob has pictures of everything, because Bob and Tawana went on that trip, and he always had that camera with him. But the monks, for one of the ways they support themselves, they make cheese. And so we wanted to get some of this cheese. So we parked the church bus in the local liquor store parking lot. We were the only ones there. This was in the morning. And went in and bought this cheese. So, okay. So we get out. We drive for a while, headed towards Georgia. And somebody said, well, let's try the cheese. So they got the cheese out. Well, everybody knew they got the cheese out when they got the cheese out. And there was only one person, some of you may remember Jeff Gorris, but he was the only person on the whole trip that we tasted it, I know, but he was the only one that would eat the cheese. So we gave him a really hard time about that, because every time he'd get the cheese out, we'd say, oh, I won't even say it, Jeff got the cheese out, so. But that's hard not to forget. But anyway, we headed towards south, and we wanted to get to Americas, which is where Quantinia is, which the plan was for us to stay there. So we got to we got to Americas, and it was not real late, but we knew we wanted to get up early the next morning because we were going to go to the Maranatha Baptist Church, because Jimmy Carter was the Sunday school teacher there. And they had been there before one time, so they knew the ropes, they knew the best way to do that. So we got up really early, because when he is in town, people always come, and the church is always full. And there's people from all over the country. There were people from Canada, all over the world, that came to hear Jimmy Carter teach Sunday school. And so we got up early, and I can remember we got off the bus, and Emily Miracle grabbed my hand, and they were unlocking the door, and she said, "Cheryl, run!" So I'm like, okay. Why are we running? But we were running so we could get on the front row. People don't do that here. So we could get on the front row. So our whole group, it was long enough. I think we all fit on that front row. And I was in the middle. Emily and I were in the middle. And Jimmy Carter stood in front of us, about 2 or 3 feet away from us at the most, and talked about, I think it was Jonah and the whale, I believe, was the part of the sermon. But it was just kind of in awe, because you're sitting there 2 feet away from a former president of the United States, and it's something that you never imagined. He's very good. It was a good lesson. It was a good experience, and people love him. And then afterwards, you can have a photo session, and there's a calendar that we had made up that has a picture of our group. And I don't think Bob's in it, because I think he took the picture, because I was looking and counting, and Bob was in it. But we have a picture with Rosalind and Jimmy Carter standing in front of the church. So that was a main experience altogether. That was like the second day. I mean, it was like, oh, this is fantastic. So we went to, I think we went to Plains to eat lunch, and first time I experienced boiled peanuts, which I'd never seen before in my life. I did taste them. I don't want to taste them again, but some people like them. So I remember tasting boiled peanuts there. But then we headed back to where we were staying, and we were staying in a place called Koinonia, which was founded by Clarence. Now, Ron Zorn always called it Jordan.
I'll say it right, it's Jordan.
It is Jordan? Okay, but it's spelled Jordan. But he founded this place in 1942, and it was a non-segregational haven. Now, for a minority person to found a place like this in Georgia in 1942 is unreal. But they served community and were able to help so many minority and even just poor people that needed any kind of help. And it was, if somebody needed a place to go or to stay or to eat, they were there. And that was the purpose of that community. And that community started in 1942, which blows my mind, and it's still existing today. And people today can still, if you don't have a place to go, they'll take you in. It's there. They support themselves by making, they don't make cheese, thank heavens. They make very good granola. I think you can get it online probably, granola, and they make really good, they make candy, I think, at one point. Pecans, sorry, I'm not used to this. They sell pecans, but they also make wonderful peach fruit cake, which I never thought I'd like a fruit cake, but they make good fruit cake, and it's peach, and it's delicious. So if you go online, they probably still sell it. I'm guessing, I haven't been online for a while. But anyhow, it's a compound like, and they had several different places you could stay. And so our job there was to help. We stayed, and we painted and we did maintenance on a building that was at one of the homes, one of the places where people could stay. And we worked on that together. And I think Tawana was there, and she worked in the office, if I remember right. Bob, you can help me if I forget something, because I will, believe me. But, we worked and we wanted to help the foundation, and we got to tour the kitchen where they made the different things that they prepared and stuff. But that was their way of helping support this community so people could come and visit. We also, they had a wonderful organic garden there that we had to be careful because there was a wild turkey. He wasn't a wild turkey, but it was a turkey that didn't particularly like people. So the whole time you're there on the grounds, you watch out. Was it Tom? I don't remember. Tom the turkey. Anyhow, you watched out for Tom because he was rather aggressive. So you tried to avoid the turkey. But you didn't dare touch him because the gardener, it was his cat. So you couldn't be mean to Tom. But anyhow, being with the kids was amazing, and getting to know, I got to know Bob and Tawana, which I didn't know them that well, but riding down on a bus for a few hours, you get to know people really, really well. When we finished at Koinonia, we headed back home, and on the way home, we went to Stone Mountain, which we thought the kids would enjoy, and we toured. Then we had some bus trouble, but that evening we planned on staying at, it was a Christian church on Peachtree Avenue in Georgia, downtown Georgia. Beautiful church. They had a huge pipe organ. It was absolutely gorgeous. They catered to weddings. People would come to this church for weddings because it was such a beautiful place. It was right in the heart of Atlanta. It was just gorgeous. And we had some bus troubles, so we had to stay there a little bit longer, so we had an opportunity to go to the Jimmy Carter Foundation there in Atlanta, which is very interesting, talks about everything they do. And we also had a chance to go to an art museum. But one of the things that I will not forget, and the kids that went, I think, really had a high impact from this, was that the church where we stayed, underneath of it, in the evening, homeless would come to sleep. Now, the church was not unaware of this, obviously, because people were there sleeping underneath their steps. And they had a place where they had a food pantry for these people, and they also had a certain restroom. But I think they had trouble with people coming in and doing a lot of damage in the downstairs, so they had to kind of limit how they organize and how they serve those people. But nevertheless, I think, seeing the people eating, and the kids got together and bought some food, and they bought some peanut butter and bread for them to have something to eat. But underneath the church underneath the steps of the church, they saw these people that really, they were, homeless people. And I think that probably was the first time for a lot of people, and kids especially, on that trip. And it left a big impact on them. So it was a fantastic trip. You didn't get a lot of sleep all the time, but that was okay. You didn't need sleep. There's too many things you did not want to see. You wanted to see, you didn't want to miss. So I think a mission trip in itself, going to a place in Georgia or any place where they are dealing with things and helping people in another way, and going and helping support them, and just experiencing and seeing that and being able to share what they have done and what we could do possibly, and just being involved was terrific. So I hope we do another mission trip, and you never regret it, for sure. So.
Today I'm going to talk about one of the mission trips I went on during college. I went on several during high school and college years. This one was to Las Fresnos, Texas. Susie was planning to go on a Southwest Good Samaritan Ministries trip and wanted to know if I would join her. I was always up for helping others and a new adventure. When I heard we would be working at an orphanage, I was all in. With my excited facial expression, but in my hesitation, because I knew I would need to come up with about $450 rather quickly, and I was a college student. I remember Susie telling me not to worry about the money. She'd figure it out. She did. The CWF paid the entire amount, which, looking back, took a ton of pressure off this, see, I get emotional over this stuff, off this eager college student. I was so in awe then and now of the fact that they donated all the money for me to go. We all tell stories very differently, and today I am telling it from the perspective of how the trip continues to enrich my life today. And then, we served people from other Disciples of Christ churches. We stayed at a church, which we all took turns cooking and with cleanup duty. We had devotions and get to know each other building games. We slept on a concrete floor of a church in sleeping bags in one large room, which made for anyone to avoid the others knowing their sleeping habits, getting up a lot, snoring, and tossing and turning. I remember a couple of people quietly mentioning not being happy about their lack of sleep, which I completely understand now, but in my college years, I didn't get. Filiberto, it was and still is the pastor of the church where we stayed, and started Southwest Good Samaritan Ministries, which serves refugees and the poor at the Mexico-Texas border. He himself was a refugee from Cuba and came to the United States on the Freedom Flight in 1969. He spent his life giving back and provides food, clothing, and shelter to refugees seeking asylum, and through his partnership with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, has helped many gain U.S. citizenship. We met a refugee when we were there named Pedro. Upon returning to Wabash, we helped raise money for him to get proper paperwork to become a U.S. citizen. I recall stories that Filiberto told about his own journey to the U.S., and it was the first time that I really believed that angels must surround us. His story of faith and prayerfulness gave me goosebumps. Filiberto and his story of faith and giving to others remind me to this day to praise God and to be constantly in prayer. Mission trips to me create unity and teamwork. Each day, we went across the U.S. border to Mexico and worked in an orphanage. I did and still don't know a bit of Spanish. Again, another thing that Susie, she's good at this, telling me everything will be all right. And I realized then, more than ever, that showing love and joy and being around children, spending time laughing and playing, far outweigh any language barrier. I taught the children how to use a hammer to drive a nail into a piece of wood. The children crawled on my lap, my back, and sat all around me. A good reminder of how that you make people feel and how you treat them outweighs anything that you can ever say. I recall one morning the men needed extra help to build. As while some of the adults spent time with the children, there were others cleaning, and a third group building a chicken coop, which allowed the orphanage to become more sufficient and have another source of food. I was one of several women that said we could help build the coop. I will never forget when they found out I knew how to mix concrete, set a corner post, and use a drill. They wondered why I hadn't helped sooner. I remember smiling and saying I was waiting for you to ask for the gal's help. I find mission trips are also a way to break barriers of presumptions, build trust, and use all the gifts you have. Although the next team-building game we played was pertaining to words that we would use to describe other people, I became known by many as a tease. It reminds me each day to stand tall but humble, to do anyway, and continue breaking down barriers of perception that still exist today. And the other thing is, the look on the faces of the people that operated the orphanage when that coop was complete and they heard that we were donating all the chickens made it worth it. We all went to the market together for a cultural experience. I purchased Mexican vanilla. I love baking, and while a simple thing, it was a baking game changer for me, and after this trip, I never in my life have purchased imitation vanilla. I also purchased a small sculpture called a lija that I bought with the idea that one day I would use it for an art lesson example. I love that I still use it to this day, and my students just completed a large-scale sculpture using it. It is special to remember that while in the market, some of us went together to purchase a piñata and candy so that the children could have a celebration. It's a time that stands out that I saw pure joy in children when it finally broke open, candy filled the ground, and they rushed in to grab it. Sometimes it's the simple things that cause us to reflect and change us in unexpected ways. Participants of mission trips gain a lifetime of memories and reflections that somehow transform them over time, in both small and large ways, by capturing new experiences, perspectives, and a reminder of just how truly blessed we are. We meet new people that we may never see again in this lifetime, but are held together by the bond of helping others. Lovely people, such as the lady on the trip that we all called Grandma. I do not even know what her first name was. I remember she was beloved and indeed one of the kindest, lover-of-life people I have ever met. Today, I still believe the same as I did then. To me, mission trips mean finding a way to show God's love with others and enrich lives. I see today, more than in my youth, that we will always have something to share. But as time marches on, the role you play in missions may change. I can't do what I did back then, as 5 years ago I had back surgery and can't lift over 25 pounds for life. But you can always give prayers, items, money, or volunteer in smaller ways. Whatever perspective I view missions from, whether it's the past or present, I see that they bring a lifetime of rewards and are a great reminder of the idea that no matter what, if we share our personal gifts and style without expectations of receiving anything in return, to learn to give however and whenever with no strings attached, in turn, we all receive more than we ever imagined. We may not end up with a pocket full of money, but we sure will have a pocket full of memories. Thank you.